Right. Okay. So today we are going to look into the global and local variable, right? So we need to know what is the difference between two of these variables, okay? Global and local variable. So let me take this, explain this via a function. So let me establish a function here. So define. So let me take the function here as display. Then let me open the parenthesis. Then let me say then a assignment 10. So we are having a variable. So this a is a variable. So 10 will be assigned to this variable a, right? So then onwards, let me say print a. Print a. Okay. Now if you take this function, if I run this function now, so I'm going to run this. So let us see what is happening once I run this. So it is saying click on to save. So if you run this, you can see here nothing will get printed because you haven't called the function. You haven't called the function. Now, when you are in the class, so if somebody is not saying your name, will you give attention to that person? No, right? So the same scenario here, as because the we haven't called the function. So we need to call the function by the name of the function. So the name of the function is display, but we haven't called it. As because you didn't call the function, it does not give you any output. So if I say now, if I call the function now, let me say display, the name of the function, we need to call it by the name. Then let me open the parentheses. So then if I run, we'll see what is happening. So now you can say 10 has been printed. 10 has been printed. So what has happened here? So you need to understand the logic here. Okay. So once you see this, you know you have display. So you are calling the function now, right? So once you call the function, it will come here to this point. Then then what you need to do? Assign 10 to the variable a. So 10 will be assigned to the variable a. Then we are saying to print a. Then 10 will be outputted. So that's how 10 has been output here. Okay, that's how 10 has been output here. So if you go to the shell, you can see the 10 as the output. So that is how this function is working. Now, if you come to our topic, what is this global variable and local variable? So we have a scope here. We have a boundary. So if you look to this boundary, okay, let me highlight that to you guys. Yes, so if you look here, right, this is the boundary. This is the boundary. Now, whatever within inside the boundary, that means the variable which is inside the boundary, this a assignment 10, this is the boundary. Okay, so that is this, what I have shown in a rectangle, that is the boundary. So now you can see that within the boundary you have a assignment 10, a assignment 10. So what if there is a variable within the boundary, that variable is called as the local variable. That variable is called as the local variable. So you can see that here for you clearly that you have this a assignment 10 within the boundary. You have a assignment 10 within the boundary. So it is a local variable and we are printing a also within the boundary. So local variable is accessed within the boundary in this scenario. So we have studied local variable now, right? So let us move forward and go into a deep understanding, right? So now let us say, now let me take a, now if I am printing a outside, what will happen? I'm going to print a outside. Now, right, you know this is the boundary. So you know this is the boundary. Now you have the print a. There is one print a which is inside the boundary. There is one print a which is inside the boundary. No issue in that, of course. Why? That is a local variable. So this is actually local variable, and we are printing it within the boundary, so it will get printed. Now here we are going to print a outside the boundary. Outside the boundary. In that case, what will happen? So let us run this and see what is going to happen in that scenario. So let me run the module. Just click on save. Then you can see if you run this, it will show an error. Yes, definitely it will show you an error, because the reason is, now you may ask me then, sir, what is this 10? This 10 is the previous local variable output. This 10 is the local variable output. But after that you have a print a which is outside the boundary. That is, you will be seeing an error because you don't have any defined variable. There is no any name called a is not defined. So that error only will be facing in that scenario. That is the logic. Because if you have print A, because this print A is outside the boundary. So if there is something outside the boundary, you can't go inside the boundary and you cannot access them. So it is something like this. Okay, if you take some countries, if you take our country, sometimes we don't allow foreigners to access some specific resources in our country. No? So this print A is outside the boundary. Therefore, that does not have the ability to access the local variable. That is the reason and the logic why it is showing an error. I hope now the explanation is clear. Right, now let us move forward. Now let me establish a global variable. So what is a global variable means? If you have a variable outside the boundary, that is going to be a global variable, as simple as it is. So let us establish that global variable. So let me say here at the top of the function, let me say a assignment 15. A assignment 15. Now this A assignment 15 is a global variable. This A assignment 15 is a global variable, and what you see inside the boundary A assignment 10, this is a local variable. This is a local variable. So you need to be clear on that. So let me also show you the boundary for a clear explanation. So this is the boundary. So the variable inside the boundary is called local variable, and which is outside the boundary is called as the global. So this is going to be the local variable and this is going to be the global variable. Now if you run this code, once you for this A which is with inside the boundary, will be getting 10 as the output. 10 as the output. How the logic is working? So you have the function display, so it will go to the display, then you have A assignment 10, 10 will be assigned to the variable A, then once you print A, 10 will be printed. And here you have one print A which is outside the boundary. Then what will happen? Does it have access to the variable which is inside the boundary? Just now we studied no. Therefore, it will be seeing whether it has any global variable. Yes, you have a global variable. So this A will be printing 50. So let us run and see. You need to get 10 and 15 as the answers respectively. So let us run this code. Right. So come to run module and click on OK. So now you will be seeing this 10 is the local variable print A. This 15 is the global, that means global variable 50. Right. Print A within the boundary, print A outside the boundary. So I think that explanation is clear. Now let us move forward. Um, so let me say something like this. Let us say the global variable is 10. Let us say the global variable is 10. Then we have the function. Let me make the local variable as 15. Let me make the local variable as 15. Then I'm going to call the function. I'm going to call the function. So I am going to call display. If you call the function only, the function will work. Okay. So when I say display, it will come here. It will come here. Then you have assignment 15. Then print a 15 will be printed. There is no anything outside the boundary. So no worries. Only we have this print a. So this print a should show what will be printed then, 15 or 10. 15 will be printed because local variable. If you take this print a, that is within the boundary, then it will see the local variable whether there is a value. Yes, you have a value, right? Then that will be printed. It can't access global. So in this scenario, okay, so let me run the module. So you will be getting 15 as the answer, right? So here you can see you have this A assignment 15 as the local variable. So print A is within the boundary, so 15 will be printed, right? Now let us go for another example. So let me say A assignment 10, define the function. Then let me say print A, print A, right? Print A. print A. Then if I run this, it won't work. You need to call the function. So let me call the function as display A. Display A. Now if I run this, now local variable is not there. See, do you have a local variable within the function? So let me show you the boundary of the function. So this is the boundary of the function. This is the boundary of the function. Do you have a local variable in the boundary? No, you don't have a local variable. So now function can access the global variable. Of course, in this scenario, you don't have a local variable. You don't have a local variable. As a result, you don't have local variable. Our function has the ability, this print A has the ability to access the global variable. Has the ability to access the global variable. So once we call the function display, it will come here. But to print you don't have anything within the boundary, then it will go to the access global variable and it will print 10. I mean, if in your country, if you don't have any resources, will you wait without consuming, satisfying your needs? No, you will be ordering from a foreign country, and however you will be satisfying your needs and wants. Same scenario applies here, right? So let us run this. You will be seeing 10 as the output. Now our print A will be accessing the global variable 10. So 10 will be printed. So here you can see, okay, now take 0 but 1 was given, like there is a small error in this scenario, that is line 5 display A. So let us come to this. Yes, of course, I have made a small mistake here, that is actually I should not do here as A, just I need to pass the parenthesis. So let me run the module again. So you will be getting 10 as the answer here. Now our print A, which is within the boundary, has the ability to access the global variable, because within the boundary we don't have local variable. Therefore, it will access outside the global variable. Right. So let us come to the last explanation of this um, local and global variable, which we are discussing now. So let me say something like this. Okay. So you have, let me say, um, A assignment 10. So let me comment this off. So it is not going to be processed or translated by our interpreter. So then define display. Let me say, let me establish a local variable which is within the boundary A assignment 15. Then I'm going to say print A. Then I'm going to call the function, and I'm going to call print A now. Print A. Now, if you look into this specific scenario, dear students, now uh, you don't have a global variable, because I have commented off. Okay, let me delete it for if you are having doubts in what is commenting. Okay, now if you consider this specific scenario, you have the boundary. So what is the boundary? This is the boundary which you are seeing, right? This is the boundary. So a assignment 15, which is within the boundary, is the local variable, right? So this is the local variable, and you have print A within the boundary. So this, already we have discussed this print A, no issues. A15 is there within the boundary, therefore it will access A assignment 15, and 15 will be printed once you call the function. But if you look this print A, this is outside the boundary. This is outside the boundary. Now, do you have a global variable in this example? No. In this scenario, you don't have a global variable. Right. Now here, this A will be printing 15. This A is within the boundary, so it has access to the local variable, so it will be printing 15. But this is outside the boundary. So if there is a print A, if you see this print A outside the boundary, this does not have, you don't have a global variable. If you have a global variable, then it will be printing like this. But whatever the value in the global variable, it will be printing. But in this scenario, there is no global variable. So can it access the local variable? If you ask me, no, it cannot access the local variable. That means this print A, which is outside the boundary, cannot access the local variable. And also there is no global variable. So let us run this and see what is happening. What is happening? So run module. So yes, now this 15 is the local variable. You have print a within the boundary, so it is having a local variable a assignment 15. So this 15 will be printed. But if you look into the print a which is outside the boundary, if you look into the print a which is outside the boundary, now here in this case you don't have a global variable, and also you don't have a global variable, and also this printf which is outside the boundary, it cannot access the variable local variable, it cannot access the local variable, therefore it will be displaying an error. So this is the local and global variable. I think things are clear.